This is why tripods exist.
Epic fail.
Darn it, I've really been doing this stuff for over 10 years now, haven't I?
The wacky world of MultimediaJay.
Well, folks, it's Saturday night, and what am I doing on this perfectly fine Saturday night, except for the snowstorm that'll be blowing through in a couple hours? Goofing around with stuff at the Geekhouse, of course, which should surprise absolutely no one. Well, I'm sitting here dumbfounded that I've been doing these wacky world of MultimediaJay things for 10 years now. Started in 2013, and 2023 quietly slipped out the door. Oh man, what have I been doing? I do have some plans for some changes to the channel in 2024, now that it is 2024, and I have some projects later in the year that I think are special enough that we should just start a whole new season of these things and bid farewell to the Streambeats Hachi Roku thing I've been using since 2021. I mean, the world has changed since the height of the pandemic lockdowns and crap like that. So, in these changing times with things a-changing and whatever, yeah, this is going to be the rather chill, relaxing season finale of all of this stuff. And, we'll just pick things up later on when I feel like just getting going on this legacy season that I was supposed to do last summer. And let's try not to screw this up again. I do have some ideas in the meantime between seasons that I'm gonna kick around and try out. So let's check out everything that's almost everything that's in front of me. Because, yeah, we have some loose ends to tie up before we call it a season with this stuff. First, eStarland. They have their policies about conditions for trade-ins, but I'm guessing even they make mistakes. Because here's what I received from them. I ordered Red Dead Redemption for the Xbox 360 because the disc version of this is just a little bit cheaper than the digital version on the Xbox store. Fortunately, I'm playing this on a Series X, so it's going to use the disc as a key disc instead of trying to do much of anything from the disc. Now, I was wondering if that might be a bad thing, except, well, let's take a look at this here. Especially when the 360 used regular DVD for its discs, which I never liked, not only because of the capacity, but because over on the PS3, they were early adopters of Blu-ray technology, which has the anti-scratch coating, which is a godsend with disc-based games. But here, let's take a look at this Red Dead Redemption here. I picked up the Xbox version of Red Dead Revolver dirt cheap on the store digitally, which is way cheaper than secondhand Xbox copies off the original Xbox. So here's Red Dead Redemption, and starting with Red Dead Redemption 2, there's PC versions available, so I'll switch to PC after I get past this entry in the Red Dead series. The problem here we already see from the beginning. We see the wiggles and creases and stuff that indicate the label probably got wet at some point. It's more noticeable on the back. Then, of course, down in the corner, you can see a little pokiness where someone tried to get a sticker off at some point, probably tried peeling off a GameStop sticker. The game is complete, per se, but let's just take a look at the stuff underneath here. There's a map, there's Red Dead Redemption, the manual. It is complete, but the most important part of these old disc-based games is the disc. Look at those scratches. Fortunately, it's not like a circular scratch, like if someone turned their 360 while the game was in there, but, yeah, I'm not going to be too worried about the PS2 games that I send to eStarland now, because I absolutely do not have scratches anywhere near this bad on any of my PS2 games. The long-lasting crap side effects of Xbox 360 using regular DVD as their storage media. Fortunately, this no longer matters on the Series X because it only uses this as a key disc, and it runs everything digitally. Like many, many PC games over the past 20 years. But yeah, This is one of the reasons why I preferred PS3 over Xbox 360 back in the day. Not just because of Red Ring, not just because of the quality issues where Microsoft ordered their manufacturers for the laser assemblies to cut corners on the rubber padding so that even under normal use, Xbox 360s would often scratch discs at least a little. But PS3 was an early adopter of Blu-ray technology with its anti-scratch coating. Speaking of which, let's go over these games that I have that I'm now going to be sending to eStarland one way or another, especially in light of how crappy this one was. Beyond Two Souls from Quantic Dream. This game's kinda cool, but I have it on Steam now, so it's on PC. I bought the Quantic Dream bundle, which has Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and Detroit Become Human. I also picked up Omicron, the Nomad Soul, for Steam as well, so we can listen to the David Bowie music and stuff like that. But, I don't know if this ever had a manual, but this is the Steelbook version. This is the Steelbook version I bought secondhand because I'd heard of Quantic Dream and I knew their games were pretty cool, so might take a little hit because I don't think this ever had a manual. But Steelbook it is for Beyond Two Souls on the PS3. Send this off to eStarland now that it's rather redundant compared to its successor on the PC. Red Dead Revolver on PlayStation 2. I'm just going to say it's a loose disc because this is a laser printer reprint of the box art just so it would have box art, so it doesn't count. But I checked out the Xbox version that's available on the digital store with the Series X, and even compared to PCSX2, Red Dead Revolver looks better and plays better if you play the Xbox version off of the store. Plus, the Xbox version is cheaper off the store than secondhand copies of the Xbox game. I'm sure the PS2 game is cheaper, but the quality really drops off even with the emulation technology that's available nowadays. So we're going to say goodbye to that. We're also going to say goodbye to Psychonauts, which I'm also going to say is a loose disc, because I also bought it as a loose disc and just made a case for it. I think if I remember right, I bought a bunch of PS2 cases wholesale to add boxes to up to like 50 of my loose disc games for PS2. But I've had this on PC for years, and now I have Psychonauts 2 on PC for years. When am I ever going to play this game? Maybe in a few more years? I don't know, but this is redundant. Still going to say loose disc though, because of course it's a loose disc. Final Fantasy X and X-2. Come hell or high water, I'm gonna hairdryer that GameStop sticker off of there to send this in. But, yeah, let's see, I don't know if these are even complete. I only paid a couple of bucks for them. Yeah, I don't see a manual there, so that's not well, this one had a manual at least. Yeah, I bought these all secondhand to begin with, and then only played them a little bit in the PS2. So, just gotta get that GameStop sticker off of there. And then, Final Fantasy XII. I'm the original owner of this and barely played it. It's mint. So, of course, there's the HD remake on Steam, which is the reason why I'm ditching these. And then, Final Fantasy XII also has an HD remake on Steam, so I'm ditching that as well. I mean, emulation makes these games look incredible, but the HD remakes are better looking. So, they're actually better looking and better running than what the emulators can do. So, it's basically, it's one of those things where, with various games, both new, recent, retro, and classic, you gotta ask yourself, what would be the best experience for you and make your decisions based on that. The first two PlayStations emulate very, very well. Not so much anything after that, but there are remakes of so many of these games that even emulation is rendered kind of moot at this point. The good news for eStarland is that I've digitized all of these games as part of my emulation experiment, so I know that the discs are all good, because if you have a bad sector on the disc, you won't be able to actually digitize the games into ISOs to use into something like PCSX2 and the like. So I'll just pretty up the discs and buff out what little micro scratches are on them, because I assure you, I took far, far better care of any of these games than whoever had this Red Dead Redemption. But hey, Xbox 360, it's a wonder the disc didn't explode in the darn thing. Forza Motorsport on the Series X. The reason why the Series X is over here is because I hooked it back up to the kilowatt again to check out the power curve when you shut it off. As I noticed that when you use the controller to turn the console off, it's like a projector in some ways. If you ever worked with, say, a data projector that ran the fans a bit in order to cool the system down after it was shut off, that's kind of what's in play here. You'll still see about 20 to 30 watts being drawn until it's done with the cool down and the shutdown completely, which is long after the little light turns off. I also noticed, of course, that Keep My Stuff Up to Date also keeps a little standby wattage monitoring the internet for updates for the games and stuff along those lines. So this is just something where I've been testing it out. So if I hold the button down and go to turn off console to get out of motorsport here, we notice the light will do its thing, but just when you think that it's turned off, let's just wait for it to do it here. It turns off. There's no more source to the monitor, but there is still some wattage while it does its shutdown tasks, which will eventually drop down to 0. And when this drops down to 0, of course, then it's time to upgrade this thing already. The Western Digital WD Black C50, basically SSD key for the Xbox Series X, adds another terabyte of SSD M2 storage type stuff. I think it's an M2 2230 or something, a little square M2 in a high-speed adapter. The big difference is the M2s, both internal and external, can be used to basically... The fan's actually still going. It got a little hot when I was running it. Those can be used to run the Series X games, and the Xbox One games can actually run off of any old plug-in drive. So it's kind of interesting. Finally it turned off. We're finally down to a fraction or 0. Good. Let's plug this thing in.
How'd you fill up all that space?
Oh yeah, it does come with a terabyte, but I've been testing a lot of double releases that are on Xbox and on PC and seeing what the difference is between them and how they operate. This key, however, does not come apart with just one hand.
Epic.
There we go. WD Black, you can see a little SSD inside there. It's probably under here. So it is kind of like a key. You just plug it into the system and that's that. Seagate has some of these too, but they've infamously been grotesquely overpriced. I can tell from the cost of third-party alternatives to this, the SSD and the enclosure on Amazon, that WD is selling these a lot closer to cost. And that pretty much undercut Seagate and forced them to finally bring the storage prices down. The cost of the SSD and the cost of a holder is roughly equivalent to what the WD Black goes for, so I figured I would just get this. There. Plenty more room for Game Pass games now. There we go, that's more like it. But as you can guess, this is being driven largely by Game Pass, although I certainly didn't do myself any favors by turning this thing into a Forza box with installation info for the entire Forza Horizon series and now Forza Motorsport. Plus I found out that MLB The Show came over to Xbox, but it's console exclusive, not on PC, so I have that on here. It's just... it's going to be interesting because the Game Pass multiplats that run better on PC, Monolith has a crap ton of solid-state storage now, being all SSDs, so I have plenty of places to store games there. This will largely just be the stuff that has to be on an Xbox, or is passable on an Xbox. It's just weird, you know, this weird relationship that Xbox has between Xbox gaming and PC gaming. It's just bizarre. Also, if I want to use this thing as a hand warmer, I have to keep some real games going, so some hot air actually comes out of this thing. Of course, those of you who may have put 2 and 2 together have probably already correctly guessed. One of the reasons why I wanted to make Monolith all solid state is because the Xbox Series X beat it to the punch in terms of being a solid state gaming computer of some sort. I mean, look at it. It's a box. Yeah, it looks like a little McDonald's toy answer to a gaming PC, but it's still a vertical tower box that plays video games. and some of them at 1080 60 to boot. Okay. Stop playing with Alexa Ball.
Epic fail.
Xbox on the big screen, and an Xbox on PC on the little screen. Seems just a tad redundant. Well, day 2, if you can believe it, although not necessarily sequentially, because I've really been having fun with the Xbox lately, especially after finding out that Xbox gets the better versions of many sports games, and the Game Pass sports game lineup makes it like you're flipping channels between various games, with the various sports games on Game Pass these days. I also checked out Walmart just to see if there are any games around that I might want to pick up, and I noticed these old Maddens marked down for at new to less than the price that I would get them used at, so I figured I'd spring for them. For the Series X, of course. At the very least, they're key discs, because both of these games are on Game Pass still. But hey, you know, they'll probably be taken off at some point. But, so, here's the thing with sports games. I have a rather complicated relationship with sports games because I'm a nerd, and sports aren't really my thing. I also know that sports games have the ongoing problem of basically being the same game over and over again, year after year, with only a few additional perks here and there, maybe, as people constantly criticize EA for with Madden. But I've been checking out the sports games on Game Pass over on the Xbox side, and when I found out, for example, that the Madden 22 I only spent a few dollars on when it first came out on Steam is actually based on the Xbox One version, so therefore it doesn't run as well as the series versions, which can do 60 FPS for everything. Once I found out that sports games are still reigning supreme on the consoles, I decided to check out what was available on Game Pass. In the case of these Maddens, though, there are specific reasons why I want these specific Madden games in my collection. Madden 22 is the last Madden that has Tom Brady as a player, and Madden 23 has that nice tribute to John Madden after he passed away with the special Madden game and stuff. Now, both of these games are still on Game Pass, but I imagine they'll eventually be taken off Game Pass. You need to have the Ultimate membership for the EA thing and stuff like that. By the way, still rocking that impression of the EA Sports guy. EA Sports. It's in the game. Or something like that. Probably do it better when I'm sitting up. EA Sports. It's in the game. Or something like that. Alright, enough of this before I get content ID'd if I sound too much like the EA Sports guy. By the way, kudos to Walmart for adding another layer of wrap onto these things to put their stickers on so they're not morons like the GameStop of the 2000s. Yeah, Walmart, you actually got this right. Whatever. Oh no, the wrap is literally that loose because it sat in their cabinets for so long. These are actually sealed like DVDs and stuff with that thing on the side. This is the actual plastic on the case. Just for the hell of it, though, I don't currently have Madden 23 installed via Game Pass. Let me answer a couple of questions that I have about the Series X with this disc version of Madden 23. Yeah, that's what I thought. All you people that said, it's just a key disc. Well, it's a key disc in the sense that PC games 20 years ago used a disc check. But as we can see right here, this thing is installing Madden 23 off of the disc. It's not just using the disc as a key disc and downloading the game from the internet. Now, I have seen combo installs that install off of both the disc and the network, as it calls it, when it receives a patch. But the discs are not completely useless with the Xbox series. The PlayStation fanboys can shut up. They don't know what they're talking about. Creak! Look, listen. You hear that? That's drive noise from a Series X. So yeah, tell the fanboys to shut up. Because as usual, console fanboys know something the least and often the loudest. Still though, you can see why game companies might be moving away from optical discs or physical media, though. Look at that 200 megabit per second transfer speed coming off of the Blu-ray drive. It's easy nowadays in my area to get synchronous fiber internet that starts at 500 in both directions. So as fiber internet becomes more of a thing, and we start talking internet in gigabits per second for installs like this, we'll only be limited by the CPU, the hardware, and the network interface on these things. Yeah, consoles definitely should move beyond optical media. I didn't like what Nintendo did with the Switch and the game carts, though, bringing back cartridges, quote-unquote, via putting games on a cousin of SD cards or compact flash or something, because, yeah, we've hit the limit on what optical can do. This is also the transfer speed of a really good hard drive, which is probably one of the reasons why the Series X won't run games directly off the discs, because it would defeat the purpose of the M2 storage if they did. What hath Xbox wrought? Especially for a PC gamer like me checking it out for the first time. There we go. Now we're getting the network patch, which will be 17.9 gigs worth of updates. But the first 40 of them came off of the disc. Alright, this game's on Game Pass, so it'll start without the disc, right? Oh, what do you know? Day 3, but it is far from the third consecutive day. It is now Martin Luther King Day, and I spent Martin Luther King weekend troubleshooting Forza Horizon 4 on PC. The Horizon Life online part of the game broke for some reason. So I was dealing with Teredo settings, the nearly deprecated Xbox Live stuff, because this is old school Xbox and UWP and crap like that. So finally, I got some new settings dialed in and did a ipconfig release renew to get everything back online. And it's nice to finally see players in the player list once again. But that's one of the reasons why I picked up the Xbox Series X, because the just consoles and their simplicity and patches and Windows updates not breaking your games. Forza Horizon 4 has had more of it than Forza Horizon 5. There have been all kinds of problems I've had over the years. Network connectivity, frame rate dropping down to 20 frames per second when using multiple monitors, all sorts of nonsense. So the consistency of the consoles to fill in the gaps when the PC version is running like crap is another reason why I picked up a Series X and took the Xbox side of things with traditional consoles at least. The dual release stuff that Forza games have will definitely come in handy. Now, where were we? There we go. I've been tinkering a bit more with my console killer. Got the diagnostic array working on 2010's Monolith, and the image might be a little worse than it was last time because I turned on the game mode on the Samsung monitor, so nowhere near as much image processing but faster speed. I kept going off the road and I was like, what, is there input lag? And I'm like, oh, game mode is turned off. Yeah, that could be a problem. So, yep, there's nothing like a good old-fashioned diagnostic array to see where you're at in terms of CPU and GPU overhead and what's remaining, as well as RAM usage. Really good stuff to have. The fun part is, I'm running Forza Horizon 5 in Ultra mode now, and we're capping at around 115 watts. So now we are absolutely outperforming the Xbox Series X in terms of efficiency and graphics at so at 1080p 60. So yeah, PC gaming, baby. Although, I mean, if you have absolutely nothing, the $350 Fire Sale Series X would be a great way to get your foot in the door. I think half of the problem with consoles is them just doggedly holding on to this idea of paying for online. If they didn't have that and they leveled the playing field with PC gaming, I'll bet any money people would use consoles as computers far more often, because flagship consoles today, they do the job. Some of them even do a little bit of 4K, and you benefit greatly from the manufacturers, the bulk discounts the manufacturers can get. But yeah, nice looking game. Not going to pick up well on the camera, of course, but It's 2060 with a Skylake, not new enough to run Windows 11, but in Windows 10 with about 32 gigs of RAM, runs A-OK for an old system. You just gotta take a look at how you're using the system. I mean, I'm kind of old school with this. I'm using this literally as a console and just playing the game. Gaming nowadays has so many background services that the newer processors are more worth it. Once you have Discord going, you're streaming, you're doing this, you're doing that. And of course, some of the console folks are actually looking at that for not console folks. Some of the folks that are working on NVIDIA type stuff and whatnot, and some of the streaming platforms are actually looking to use your resources on your graphics card for things like AI work and upscaling, stuff that they otherwise would have had to pay for a server for. I was watching the Dan Clancy thing earlier on where he's going with Twitch being in the trouble that it's in at the start of this lovely year. Oh yeah, here we go, running nice and cool, although it is wintry around here. Cold and dry, baby. But with just one fan and no other moving parts in the entire system. 2060 and an old Skylake, 35% on the processor. Sometimes it goes like 60 or 70 because of this lack of 4 gigahertz cores. But definitely, as long as you don't hit the VRAM cap on the graphics card. It's not complaining either because it's not miscalculating the VRAM on the 2060 like it does on my 3060 Ti. I could theoretically max this game out, but I backed off the textures because I got sick of it complaining. It would go up to like 7,800 megabytes of VRAM in use out of an 8,000 cap, and I'd be like, I'm running out of RAM, because it thought I had like only 75 or something like that. Hey, once you dial in your settings, you're in great shape. The essence of what PC gaming is all about, and why, Intel gets their technology in gear with their manufacturing technology and fabrication. I'm perfectly open to the idea of going back to a Core i5 if they can ever top their 12th gen model. And now, welcome to Windows, and since this is an old Skylake and there's some corporate design in there with how this old computer ran, we tanked all the way down into the 30s, sometimes 40s to 60s when it's doing stuff. Once it sits there, it sits in the 30s quite a bit. I remember when it was cool when laptops did this, and now here's a gaming desktop that can throttle itself down pretty well like that. And then there's this. Here is where things get a lot more interesting for PC gaming. This is Playnite, an open source launcher that combines together all the stores, plus any emulation you might have or other stuff. Also any standalone games you happen to install. Bottom line, it's a console interface for launching games that has all your games together in one spot, no matter which store or service they came from. You can also use it to replace the right-click menu for games, because it'll function the way Steam's desktop mode does, too. Oh, but I like big picture mode, you say. Well, just hit F11, or set it to default to this mode. Now you have an interface that is very, very controller-friendly. Background music, too. Getting back into this stuff is very much like cleaning up after a mess. And I'm being reminded of that more and more as I go looking for stuff that I already set up. I'm like, yeah, let me find where that composite component cable went, hook it up to the back of the TV so I can plug my old school consoles into it for when I want to use original hardware. I go and take a look, it's hooked up. I did that last time and I completely forgot about it. Or sometime, everything's been a blur. Yeah, so the old retro setup, the CRT died, so between this and what's available for emulation these days, I pretty much have a setup where I can put everything through the TV. I do have a scaler, but I don't know if I really want to bother with it or not. There's only one console that struggles with that new TV, and that's the Super Nintendo. So, we just gotta figure it out, but with the convenience of emulation and what's available these days, plus having the ability to hook up original controllers to a PC, I gotta wonder about, keeping the old hardware around. It's a legit thing that I'm thinking about these days. Although I did kinda change my mind on getting rid of the Xbone controllers. Hey, you know what? I can use them for test setups or some other things that I'm experimenting with while using the series controllers for my main setups. But the one with the old orange batteries I'm going to leave out here in the project area. I only need one of these for when I'm like, what if I used an Xbone controller instead of a series controller over the main setup? No, we'll get that going. We'll get everything set up so that we can have console. So here's the plan, really. I only want to have like a console or two permanently hooked up, and then the rest we can just swap the power cords and swap everything else. The Xbox Series X really takes the crown for my main console for the time being, whether it's to play console games or to play Blu-ray movies. So even the PS3 can probably get a break for now. But this comes to our last thing in this stack of stuff that I've been gradually digging my way throughout this season finale. Back in my younger days, I used to think I was hot stuff because I'm an AV geek. And I was like, look at me, I got all these source boxes. I can put everything through every TV I have just by pushing the right buttons. I would go out and I would buy like this GameStop old-fashioned AV switch, covering up the Xbox button with drafting tape and writing N64. It's just doing this. I just hit this button and that button to send the Nintendo Wii to the TV or the computer monitor. It's like, computer monitor. Well, needless to say, in the decades since, technology has moved forward, and we now have auto-switching HDMI switches. This is something from Amazon. Let's check it out. There we go, little AV box, lets you switch between 5 HDMIs, doing up to 4K 60, only 1 watt, well I'd hope so from something like this, and if you hold down the switch button it goes into auto switch mode. So here's the plan. What I want to do, since I have too many HDMI things now for the AV receiver, instead of spending a ton of money on a new receiver, I'm going to have the Xbox have its own channel, similar to how the PlayStation 3 has been set up, and then put all the other HDMIs on the other channel that the Wii U currently has. Change the label from Wii to Game, and then basically that'll be that. So we'll see how well these auto switchers work, or do I need to just keep the remote control handy to switch them around? So that way you can have HDMI hookups for up to 5 different things and maybe even a second computer. Basically save a lot of whatever with this setup. Alright, let's go plug it in and let's see how good it works. Oh, this is going to be a lot of fun. Man, how technology has advanced in the last decade or so. So, if you take that AV switch and you hold down the source select button for 5 seconds, it activates auto mode, and then whatever goes through it is what it sends out. Now, 2 of the 3 consoles I have hooked up will actually grab the HDMI and switch it all over, the Xbox being the most aggressive. So the Xbox will even flip HDMI sources and stuff like that. The rest will just, the PS3 will just operate through the HDMI 2 source on the AV receiver. But let's just switch off of the computer's main thing, HDMI 1, to the everything source, which is HDMI 2, by turning on the Xbox and hitting the button a second time while it's booting up, so it'll change the source. Usually you can just push the button to change the source. So as soon as it pairs here, we don't get the boot up this time because we're not on the source. As soon as it pairs, should flip right over. There it goes. Here's the Xbox. Now let's turn on the PlayStation. See if it flips over. Come on, PlayStation. Switch the source. There it goes. Oh, even the sound kind of goofed. So, this is, unfortunately, it only does it when it boots up. I don't think the buttons actually work when you send it back the other way. So, if I hit Xbox to change it back, it'll, yeah. So, the Xbox will switch back, but the PlayStation won't, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, let's turn off this thing. Alright, let's turn this thing off. And so long. So when the Xbox gets its own thing, but let me see here. Can I shut this thing off with the? No, I can't. Nuts. Okay, we'll manually override it with the remote. Switch back to source number 4, which is now a game source. And now we're just going to switch between the consoles here. So we have our PlayStation 3. Now what happens if we turn on the Wii U? The Wii U doesn't automatically switch over, but what does the source box do? Oh, wait a minute. Did I turn the controller on? Oh boy, now it doesn't know what to do. It switched to Wii U. Fortunately, even though the Wii U doesn't grab the source, it'll actually, I have both the PS3 and the Wii U going at the same time. But I can turn off the console with the Wii U Pro controller. So, there's the Wii U. Let's turn off the Wii U and see if it switches back to PS3. Alright, the Wii U's off. Does it go back to auto mode and switch back to the PS3? It does. But I could just turn off the PS3 now, since I want to play Zelda or something. And the expansion, I should just get better power gear so I can plug in more consoles. They're electronics, not like power tools or anything. They don't draw that much power, and I'd be an idiot if I used more than one of them. But let's test it again. So now I flip to the Wii U. There it goes. Where were these auto-switching things back in the 2000s when I thought I was hot stuff with my old setup where you had to hit mechanical buttons on composite switches to switch everything? But, we should test and see how the input lag is on this. I'm going to need a platformer for each, so we'll do Ratchet and Clank and then something from the Virtual Console that we'll play with. Alright, you get the idea. Well, let's turn it off, because we can turn off the Wii U console with the controller, but we have to go to the menu on the PlayStation 3 to turn that off. I'm having too much fun here. But this is just cool that, you know, Amazon has these cutesy little things. I just wonder if the Switch box adds any input lag. But, yeah, alright, there we go. Welcome back to PlayStation 3. And of course, I can always just go back to Xbox anytime I want, just by turning on the Xbox. Or if it's already on, hitting the thing on the controller. But with these things all being little computers and stuff, we probably don't want to be running too mad. I don't want to trip a breaker and then have to go out in the freezing cold back into the cellar in order to reset the breaker. Let's see here. Come on, Xbox. Without pushing the button this time, will it automatically grab the HDMI? Yes, it will. Just these console gamers and all these convenience features for living room gaming makes me wonder when somebody's going to incorporate this on the PC side of things. Maybe Windows 11 or 12. I know Microsoft has kind of walked away from Windows 10, but let's see. Come on. So long. Well, I'm bored with that. Now, the Wii U will not change the source over, so let's use the PlayStation instead. You could theoretically be super lazy while doing this. Oh, man. Just stop playing with the stupid consoles and... He's going to get a PS4 and PS5 now and just load up his entertainment center. I don't have the room for it. I need ways to store these consoles and then just hook them up when I need them. Plus, I don't need the power draw of all those consoles that I barely use, and I'm playing PC for months on end. So, a hook-it-up-as-you-go setup seems to be best for me, but I don't know. These HDMI switches are really getting me to rethink this. Alright, everything's off, and the thing's like, hey, no picture. Ah! Don't break the controller. As soon as it goes back to no signal, let's find some games. Alright, Ratchet and Clank Quest for Booty. A little awkward playing this, but let's see how it goes here. Alright. Still getting my surround sound properly, so that's good. Oh, she's a friendly. I don't know, I mean, one of the fun parts about having a 720p television, or still sticking with 1080p television, is that the 720p consoles are still, I mean, a little fuzzy, but they still play things just fine. Not bad considering this thing's contemporary to the 360. Okay. Just for platforming, can I jump onto something real quick and see how it goes? Like maybe double jump and then try and make some... Not bad. Yeah, not bad. Let's try something on the Nintendo side of things. Oh man, this is not going to be it. This is not going to be fun. Mario 3 with a Wii U Pro controller. Oh, I was in the middle of something. Alright. There we go. Oh, it's... oh, it's like an NES control. Oh, I got Super Nintendo... Just restart the game. Can I How about we... Shoot. No, that was the other menu on this. How did you open that menu up? There it is. Reset. No, don't create don't do save states. Reset. Oh, I'm hearing it through both speakers, too. So we have to go into the Wii menu and shut the game off because of... That's why it sounds weird. There we go. So I have NES buttons, so A, B, instead of Super Nintendo style. What if I use the outside buttons? Nope. What's... I had this thing set up to use an NES control that plugged into a Wiimote. So all area, I gotta use A and B side by side, like it's, but hold it like a PlayStation controller. This is so awkward. I do have a Wiimote that I could put some batteries in and hook something like that up. It's also weird that the sound's coming from two different places at once because the gamepad is still on. Alright, hold on a second. Controller settings. Display off. Yeah, please turn off that useless Proto Switch controller. The reason why I was so skittish on the Wii U about using... There we go. Now the audio is only coming from one TV like it's supposed to. The reason why I was always so skittish about using the Wii U gamepad is because I knew that in a $350 console back in its day, it was $170 to replace the gamepad if it broke, and the console wouldn't work without it. So, needless to say, I've mostly kept the gamepad on the stand and used a Pro controller as much as I could. It seems to be working out alright. I'm going to play some Mario 3 on this. Of course, it is an emulator, and not a very good looking one compared to the original NES. Let's see here. Plus, these games were designed for CRTs, so perfect pixels is not exactly the best way of doing it. Plus, the Virtual Console on the Wii U is known for being a little dim. Alright, let's grab the star. Alright, now I'm getting back into it. Of course, for a game I haven't... Whoops, wrong. Closed by hitting the B button. Hit one of the top buttons by mistake. For a game that I haven't played on a regular basis since I was a kid, I'm getting back into it pretty darn well. Let's just get the warp whistle, because this is probably the best test for input lag that I can do for this thing, despite the gimped controller and stuff like that. I am getting kind of owned by the differences between tube TVs and LCDs as far as input latency is concerned. And I'm also getting owned by the controller being absurdly different. Let's just grab the warp whistle and call it a night with this crap. Come on, there we go. Yeah, you had to read Nintendo Power to learn that back in the day. Although usually most of the kids in my school would just send it around. There! The warp whistle! Whatever. That cute little box does that much. Where were these things in my heady days as a youngster? Finally! I have my table back. Now I can finally program that darn router. Seriously now. I know, right? Not much of a finale for New Roaring Twenties Mulligan, but a perfect metaphor for the way things are here at the beginning of 2024. The world is changing. Online media is changing. YouTube is changing. I've been doing tech videos on this channel for 10 years now. I think now is as good a time as any to break up the monotony of the same old stuff on this YouTube channel and try some new things. After all, I will be far from the only one trying new things in this wonderful world that we're heading into, as the world continues to emerge from the grips of the pandemic lockdowns, or whatever you want to call them. New Roaring Twenties Mulligan. Been doing tech videos on this channel for 10 years. This season's been going on since 2021. but I think there's some other stuff that I could be doing on this channel. Enough is enough. Should have done this middle of last year, but here we are in 2024. Better late than never. Now I finally have my table back. We can continue working to clean up the mess of the last few years and move on to whatever cool stuff lies ahead. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.